The night Nathaniel Foster's life changed forever began with a shattered pane of glass in his experimental greenhouse. The sound jolted him awake in his small cottage, where he'd fallen asleep reviewing research notes on bioluminescent plant hybridization. The security system hadn't triggered, which was strange. He'd specifically calibrated it to detect any disruption to the greenhouse's carefully maintained environment. Grabbing his tablet to check the environmental readings, Nathaniel noticed something even more peculiar. The temperature and humidity levels were perfectly stable, as if the broken glass had somehow sealed itself. "That's impossible," he muttered, pulling on his boots. The late October air bit through his sweater as he crossed the yard to the greenhouse, motion-activated lights illuminating his path. As head botanist for the Riverside Botanical Research Center, he'd spent years developing new plant species in this greenhouse. Some of his specimens were irreplaceable. The break-in point was immediately obvious, a jagged hole in the glass wall, about 6 feet up. But instead of shards littering the ground, the edges were covered in what looked like living crystal, slowly growing to seal the breach. It pulsed with a faint bluish light. Movement deeper in the greenhouse caught his eye. Among his rows of experimental plants, something was glowing. "Hello?" Nathaniel called out, his scientific curiosity overriding his common sense. "I can see you there." A figure rose from behind a bench of his prize specimens, phosphorescent orchid hybrids. Nathaniel's breath caught in his throat. The being before him was humanoid but clearly not human. Its skin had a crystalline quality that shifted between deep blue and violet, with patterns of light flowing beneath the surface like aurora borealis. Where hair should be, delicate crystalline formations caught and refracted light. "Please," the being said, its voice resonating like wind through crystal chimes. "I mean no harm." She, Nathaniel somehow knew, pressed a hand against her side, where darker crystals were forming. "I needed somewhere to heal." Nathaniel's gaze darted to his plants. None seemed damaged. In fact, the specimens nearest to the alien visitor were thriving, their bioluminescence heightened to an unprecedented degree. "You're injured," he said, taking a careful step forward. "And you're affecting my plants." "I apologize for the intrusion," she said. "Your garden," it called to me. "The biological signatures here are unlike anything I've encountered. So much potential for light." A low hum filled the air, and the alien's form flickered like a faulty hologram. She stumbled, catching herself on a bench. The crystals at her side grew darker. "Someone's hunting you," Nathaniel realized. The alien nodded. "The Helios Corporation. They..." She winced as another hum passed through the air. "They seek to weaponize my people's connection to photosynthetic life. I escaped their research facility, but their tracking drones are getting closer." Nathaniel's mind raced. His work on bioluminescent plants had attracted corporate attention before, but he'd always declined their offers. He knew how research could be twisted to serve less noble purposes. "Your plants," the alien said urgently. "They possess unique properties, ways of channeling and storing light that could help mask my energy signature. But I would need your help. Your understanding of their biology." The humming grew louder. Through the greenhouse glass, Nathaniel could see points of red light moving through the sky, drones scanning the area. He had seconds to make a decision. "I'm Nathaniel Foster," he said, reaching for his tablet to access the greenhouse's environmental controls. "And I have some ideas about how we might help each other. What should I call you?" The alien's crystalline features shifted in what might have been a smile. "In your language, the closest approximation would be Lumina." "All right, Lumina," Nathaniel said, already adjusting the greenhouse's spectral lighting arrays. "Let's see what we can learn from each other about the true potential of Earth's plant life." The next few hours passed in a blur of scientific discovery and mounting tension. Nathaniel learned that Lumina's people, the crystallites, had evolved in symbiosis with the photosynthetic life forms of their home world. They could communicate with plants on a molecular level, enhancing or suppressing their natural processes. The Helios Corporation had discovered their abilities and saw the military potential. Imagine crops that could be commanded to fail, or forests that could be turned into weapons. Lumina helped Nathaniel understand why his recent experiments in bioluminescent hybridization had been so successful. His intuitive approach to working with the plant's natural energy systems aligned with how her people viewed photosynthetic life, not as something to be controlled, but as partners in a complex dance of light and life. Together, they modified the greenhouse's environment to amplify the unique properties of his hybrid plants. The bioluminescent orchids began producing light signatures that matched Lumina's crystalline energy patterns, creating a kind of camouflage. The searching drones passed overhead repeatedly but couldn't distinguish her presence from the background energy of the greenhouse. "Remarkable," Lumina said, examining one of the orchids. Where her crystalline fingers touched the petals, new patterns of light emerged. "Your plants are more aware than you realize. They're participating in their own evolution." "That's what I've always believed," Nathaniel said, documenting the changes with his tablet's spectral camera. "But the mainstream scientific community considers it too radical. They prefer to see plants as passive subjects rather than active collaborators." A sharp crack echoed through the greenhouse. They both turned to see a figure standing in the doorway, a security guard from the research center, drawn by the unusual light display. "Dr. Foster," the guard called out. "Is everything all right? We detected some unusual energy readings." Nathaniel stepped forward, positioning himself between Lumina and the door. "Just running some late-night experiments, Marcus. You know how it is with these bioluminescent varieties, sometimes you have to observe them after dark." The guard peered past him, and for a moment Nathaniel feared Lumina's crystalline form would be clearly visible. But when he glanced back, he saw that she had somehow merged her energy signature with that of the orchids. To an untrained eye, she appeared to be nothing more than an unusually bright cluster of flowers. "You should file a notice next time," Marcus said, but his tone was friendly. "Some of these readings are off the charts. Had us worried something might have broken in." "Sorry about that," Nathaniel said. "I'll be sure to log it properly next time." After the guard left, Lumina emerged from her camouflage. "Your colleague's concern for your safety is admirable. But it demonstrates why I cannot stay long. My presence puts you at risk." "The risk already exists," Nathaniel pointed out. "The Helios Corporation will be just as interested in my plant's ability to mask energy signatures as they are in your abilities. At least together we have a better chance of protecting this knowledge." Lumina studied him with eyes that sparkled like starlight through crystal. "Why would you help me?" "Your career, your safety." "Because you're right about the plants," Nathaniel said simply. "They're not just resources to be exploited. They're collaborators in the story of life itself. If we don't protect that understanding, we risk losing something precious, not just on Earth, but across the galaxy." The first light of dawn was beginning to paint the sky when they finished adapting the greenhouse's systems to provide Lumina with longer-term sanctuary. Neither of them knew what challenges the coming days would bring, but as Nathaniel watched his plants responding to Lumina's presence, growing in ways he'd never imagined possible, he knew he'd made the right choice. This was more than just hiding a fugitive. It was about defending a way of seeing life itself, not as something to be controlled and weaponized, but as a vast network of cooperation and mutual growth. The garden that had been his life's work was about to become something far more significant, a seed of revolution planted in the fertile soil of human-alien collaboration. Dawn painted the greenhouse in shades of amber and rose, but Nathaniel Foster hadn't slept. He sat at his workbench, analyzing the data from his tablet while Lumina moved among the plants, her crystalline form refracting the morning light into rainbow patterns across the walls. "These readings are extraordinary," he said, scrolling through charts of photosynthetic activity. "The plants aren't just responding to your presence, they're adapting, creating entirely new pathways for energy transfer." Lumina touched a nearby vine, and bioluminescent patterns rippled outward from her fingertips. On my world, we call this the resonance. All photosynthetic life shares a common song. We simply help them sing it louder. A alert flashed on Nathaniel's tablet, incoming vehicle at the main gate. He switched to the security feed and felt his stomach tighten. A sleek black car with corporate logos was approaching the research center. Helios found us already? Lumina's crystalline features shifted in what he now recognized as anxiety. No, Nathaniel said, though he wasn't entirely sure. That's Regina Blackwood, chair of our board of directors. She never makes unannounced visits. He checked his watch. And never at 6 a.m. Lumina's form began to fade into the background symphony of plant life, but Nathaniel held up a hand. Wait. I have an idea. 20 minutes later, Regina Blackwood's heels clicked across the greenhouse floor. She was exactly as Nathaniel remembered, impeccably dressed, with sharp features and sharper eyes that missed nothing. Dr. Foster, she said, extending a manicured hand. Your security guard mentioned unusual energy readings last night. I was in the area and thought I'd see these breakthrough developments for myself. Of course, Nathaniel said, shaking her hand. Beside him, Lumina stood perfectly still, her crystalline form now modified to appear as a striking art installation. They discovered she could maintain this form indefinitely, as long as she was in contact with the plant's energy fields. Regina's gaze swept over Lumina without a second glance. I understand you've made progress with electromagnetic manipulation in photosynthetic processes? Yes, Nathaniel said, warming to his subject. We've discovered that certain hybrid species can form complex networks for energy transfer. The implications for sustainable energy production are fascinating. And military applications? The question hung in the air like poison. Nathaniel kept his expression neutral. I wouldn't know about that. Our focus is purely agricultural and environmental. Regina smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Interesting sculpture, she said, nodding toward Lumina. Very avant-garde. A gift from a colleague, Nathaniel said smoothly. She believes art and science should interact more. Indeed. Regina pulled out her phone, checking something. Dr. Foster, have you had any unusual visitors lately? There have been reports of industrial espionage in the sector. Corporate assets gone rogue, that sort of thing. Just Marcus on his rounds, Nathaniel said. And now you, of course. Regina put her phone away, but not before Nathaniel glimpsed what looked like a drone feed on the screen. Well, keep up the good work. We'll be watching your progress with great interest. After she left, Lumina shifted back to her natural form, crystalline features tight with concern. She knows something. Yes, Nathaniel agreed. But she's not certain enough to act yet. We need to be ready when that changes. Over the next few days, they developed a deeper understanding of how their different approaches to botanical science could work together. Nathaniel's methodical human research combined with Lumina's intuitive knowledge of plant consciousness led to breakthrough after breakthrough. They discovered that Earth's plants possessed unique properties not found anywhere else in the galaxy. The tremendous biodiversity of Earth's ecosystems had led to the evolution of remarkably adaptable photosynthetic mechanisms. With Lumina's guidance, the plants in the greenhouse began developing new ways of storing and transmitting energy. It's like they're creating their own encrypted network, Nathaniel explained to Lumina as they worked late one evening. Each species develops its own signature frequency, but they can all communicate with each other. Yes, Lumina said, her crystal formations glowing with excitement. This is beyond anything we achieved on my world. Your plants aren't just participating in their evolution, they're actively problem-solving. A sound at the greenhouse door made them both freeze. But it was only Nathaniel's colleague, Dr. Rachel Chen, who had been working late in the main lab. Nat, she called out. Why are all the lights? She stopped dead when she saw Lumina. Rachel, Nathaniel said quickly, stepping forward. I can explain. But Rachel was already moving closer, her scientific curiosity overriding any fear. Crystalline biology, she breathed. Photosynthetic symbiosis at a cellular level. This is incredible. Lumina glanced at Nathaniel, who nodded slightly. I am called Lumina, she said, her crystalline voice filling the greenhouse with gentle harmonics. Dr. Rachel Chen, Rachel replied automatically, then laughed. I'm sorry, I'm being rude. It's just, this changes everything we thought we knew about biological possibilities. That's why we need your help, Nathaniel said. And why this has to remain absolutely secret. Over cups of tea in Nathaniel's cottage, they explained everything, the Helios Corporation's plans, the unique properties of Earth's plant life, and the growing network of botanical resistance they were building. Regina Blackwood isn't just here for the research center, Rachel revealed. She's been meeting with military officials. There are rumors about some kind of new biological weapons program. They're not just after me, Lumina realized. They want to understand how I interact with Earth's plants. If they could replicate that, they could control photosynthesis itself, Nathaniel finished. Create or destroy food sources at will. Hold entire ecosystems hostage. Rachel set down her teacup with determination. Well, they'll have to get through Earth's top botanical research team first. And we're about to make their job very difficult. With Rachel's help, they began preparing the greenhouse for what they knew would come. They developed new hybrid species specifically designed to mask energy signatures, installed backup systems disguised as routine equipment upgrades, and created emergency protocols hidden within normal research procedures. But their most important discovery came unexpectedly. Late one night, as they were all working in the greenhouse, Lumina suddenly staggered, her crystalline form flickering. What's wrong? Nathaniel rushed to support her. A signal, she gasped. From, up there. They followed her pointing finger to the night sky just as a streak of light cut across the stars. Something was entering Earth's atmosphere, and it was heading straight for them. Another crystallite? Rachel asked. Lumina's expression was a mix of hope and fear. Yes. But whether their friend or pursuer, I cannot tell. Nathaniel squared his shoulders. Either way, they're about to discover that Earth's plants have chosen their side in this conflict. And we're ready for whatever comes next. The streak of light grew brighter, and in the greenhouse, every plant began to pulse with bioluminescent energy, as if the garden itself was preparing for battle. The object streaking through the atmosphere made no attempt at stealth. It crashed into the research center's east field, sending a plume of earth skyward. Before the dust could settle, Nathaniel, Rachel, and Lumina were already moving through the greenhouse's emergency exit, using the bioluminescent plant's energy signature as cover. Stay behind me, Lumina whispered, her crystalline form pulsing with defensive energy. If it's a hunter. The words died in her throat as a figure emerged from the impact crater. Like Lumina, it had a crystalline form, but where her colors were blues and violets, this being shimmered in shades of amber and gold. The newcomer stumbled, clearly injured. Solaris, Lumina breathed, rushing forward. What are you doing here? Warning you, the golden crystallite managed before collapsing. Helios, they're not just after us anymore. They're coming for Earth itself. Back in the greenhouse, they tended to Solaris's injuries using a combination of earth plant extracts and crystalline energy transfer. Rachel's expertise in botanical medicine proved invaluable, as she quickly identified which species could help stabilize the aliens' fluctuating energy patterns. The corporation has developed a way to force our connection to photosynthetic life, Solaris explained once he could sit up. They're creating devices, they call them photon harnesses, that can enslave both crystallites and plants. They plan to test them here, on Earth's unique botanical network. That's why Regina's been meeting with military officials, Rachel realized. They're not just planning weapons development, they're preparing for a full-scale takeover of Earth's agricultural systems. Nathaniel paced between rows of gently glowing plants. But why Earth? There must be other planets with photosynthetic life. None like this, Lumina said, gesturing to their surroundings. Your planet's incredible biodiversity, the complex relationships between species. Earth's plants have developed abilities we've never seen elsewhere. The network they're building here is unprecedented. As if in response, the greenhouse's plants pulsed with synchronized light. Solaris watched in amazement as patterns of energy flowed through the interconnected species. Extraordinary, he said. They're actually coordinating their energy signatures. Creating defensive algorithms? We've been teaching them, Rachel explained proudly. Or rather, helping them teach themselves. Each species contributes its unique properties to strengthen the whole network. A distant explosion rocked the ground, and emergency sirens began to wail across the research center campus. Through the greenhouse glass, they could see helicopters approaching, their searchlights cutting through the pre-dawn darkness. Helios, Solaris said grimly. They followed my trajectory. But Nathaniel was smiling. Actually, I think they're right on schedule. He turned to Rachel. Time to activate Protocol Dandelion? Rachel's answering grin was fierce. Oh yes. Let's show them what Earth plants can really do. Over the next hour, the research center became a battlefield unlike any in human history. As Helios forces breached the perimeter, they found themselves facing not just two crystallites and two human scientists, but an entire ecosystem that had learned to fight back. Vines with enhanced photoreceptors detected and disabled surveillance equipment. Flowers released precisely targeted spores that fouled electronic systems. Even the moss growing on the buildings had been modified to absorb and redirect energy signatures, creating a constantly shifting maze of false readings. They never understood, Lumina said as she and Nathaniel coordinated the greenhouse's defenses. They saw our connection to plants as a weapon to be controlled. But it's a partnership, a conversation. You can't force cooperation, you have to earn it. Rachel worked with Solaris to expand the network, using the research center's extensive botanical gardens as amplifiers. Every plant, from the smallest algae to the tallest trees, became part of Earth's first line of defense against corporate domination. But their victory was short-lived. As the sun rose, a new wave of Helios forces arrived, led by Regina Blackwood herself. She stepped out of an armored vehicle wearing what could only be a prototype photon harness, its crystalline components pulsing with sickly green light. Fascinating setup you have here, Dr. Foster, she called out. But did you really think we wouldn't have countermeasures? We've been studying crystallite biology for years. She activated the harness, and waves of corrupted energy rolled across the research center grounds. Plants began to wither, their natural energy signatures disrupted by the device's artificial frequencies. Stop! Lumina cried out, feeling the plant's pain through their shared connection. You're destroying them. I'm controlling them, Regina corrected. Just as humanity should control all of nature. Order instead of chaos. Progress instead of preservation. But something unexpected was happening. As Regina's device attacked the plant's natural networks, new connections were forming. The dying plants released spores and seeds, which were quickly carried on the morning breeze. And where they landed, new growth emerged, plants that had evolved in mere minutes to resist the harness's frequencies. Impossible, Regina breathed, staring at her device's readings. The network, it's adapting faster than we can corrupt it. That's humanity's greatest gift, Nathaniel said, watching in awe as the botanical resistance spread. Not control, but understanding. Not domination, but cooperation. Earth's plants have always been our partners in survival, we just had to learn how to listen. The photon harness began to spark and smoke as Earth's evolved plant life turned its own energy back against it. Regina threw the device away just before it exploded in a shower of corrupted crystals. But even as Helios' forces retreated, Solaris pointed to the sky with alarm. More ships entering the atmosphere. Dozens of them. Reinforcements? Rachel asked grimly. No, Lumina said, her crystal features brightening. Refugees. Other crystallites, fleeing Helios control. They felt Earth's resistance through the galactic photosynthetic network. They're coming, to join us. As distant points of light streaked across the morning sky, Nathaniel looked at the transformed landscape around them. The research center had become something new, not just a sanctuary for fugitive aliens, but the birthplace of a revolution that would spread across the galaxy, one seed at a time. Well, he said, putting an arm around Lumina's crystalline shoulders, I guess we better start building more greenhouses. 1 month after the battle at the research center, Nathaniel's greenhouse had become the heart of an unprecedented revolution. What began as a simple botanical research facility had evolved into command central for an interstellar resistance movement. The original greenhouse now served as just one hub in a vast network of similar sanctuaries spreading across the globe. The Singapore Sanctuary reports successful integration of mangrove defense systems, Rachel announced, reviewing updates on their newly developed quantum botanical communication network. And the Amazon base has somehow taught the rainforest canopy to generate electromagnetic interference fields. The plants are becoming better teachers than we are, Nathaniel observed, watching as Lumina worked with a group of newly arrived crystallite refugees. The aliens' forms sparkled in various hues, jade, sapphire, ruby, and gold, each one bringing unique knowledge from different corners of the galaxy. Through the greenhouse's transparent walls, he could see teams of human scientists working alongside crystallites in the expanded research complex. What had once been empty fields were now filled with experimental gardens, each one developing new ways to protect Earth from Helios Corporation's increasingly desperate attempts at control. Solaris, now fully recovered, approached with a holographic display of global botanical activity. The network's evolution is exceeding all projections. Earth's plants aren't just adapting, they're anticipating potential threats and developing countermeasures before attacks even occur. It's like they've awakened to their own potential, Lumina added, joining them. The presence of so many crystallites has accelerated their natural development by centuries. A soft chime interrupted their discussion. Dr. Amelia Patel, former head of the UN's new Xenobotanical Defense Initiative, appeared on their main communication screen. We've decoded more of the data Solaris brought, she reported without preamble. You need to see this immediately. The holographic display shifted to show complex molecular structures. These aren't just weapons Helios is developing, Amelia explained. They're trying to fundamentally rewrite the laws of photosynthesis itself. If they succeed, they could control every plant-based ecosystem in the galaxy. But why? Rachel demanded. They're a corporation, what's the endgame? Power in its purest form, a new voice answered. They turned to see Thomas Wright, a former Helios executive who had defected to their cause weeks earlier, entering the greenhouse. Helios discovered something in their early experiments with crystallite biology, a way to not just control photosynthesis, but to harvest and store the fundamental energy of life itself. They want to become gods, Lumina realized, her crystalline form dimming with horror. To control the very force that powers all living things. Which is why we need to move faster, Thomas said. I've just received word from my remaining contacts inside Helios. They're preparing something big, a device they're calling the Solar Crown. It's designed to override and control all photosynthetic processes within a planetary radius. Nathaniel felt the plants around them pulse with alarm, responding to the collective anxiety of their alien and human allies. But beneath the fear, he sensed something else, determination, and a deep well of untapped potential. Show me the device's specifications, he said. As Thomas pulled up the stolen schematics, Nathaniel began to laugh. Everyone stared at him in confusion. "Don't you see?" he asked, gesturing to the complex diagrams. "They still don't understand. They're trying to impose control from the outside, to force their will onto living systems. But that's not how life works. Not really." He walked to a nearby bench where his original bioluminescent orchids still grew. "Life isn't about control, it's about connection. Communication. Cooperation." He touched one of the glowing petals. "Everything they're trying to achieve through force, we're already doing through partnership." Rachel's eyes widened as she caught his meaning. "The network we've built is exactly what they're trying to create," Nathaniel finished. "But ours works with the natural flow of life, not against it. And it's getting stronger every day." Lumina stepped forward, her crystalline features bright with sudden hope. "We've been playing defense, helping Earth's plants protect themselves. But what if we could do more? What if we could show the galaxy a better way?" The next few hours were a blur of activity as they began to implement their most ambitious plan yet. While Helios prepared their solar crown, the Resistance worked to transform their defensive network into something entirely new, a harmonious system that could amplify and support the natural processes of life itself. Human scientists and crystallite refugees worked side by side, combining their knowledge in ways never before imagined. Every garden, every greenhouse, every wild space that had joined their cause became part of something greater. They weren't just protecting Earth anymore, they were helping it evolve, helping it become a beacon for a new kind of relationship between sentient beings and the living worlds they inhabited. But time was running out. As the sun set on their preparations, they detected massive energy signatures entering the solar system. The Helios fleet had arrived, carrying with them the device that could either enslave or liberate all photosynthetic life in the galaxy. Everything would depend on what happened next, not just humanity's future, but the future of life itself. As Nathaniel looked around at the unlikely family they'd built, humans and aliens, scientists and refugees, all united by their respect for the intricate dance of life, he felt strangely calm. "Whatever happens tomorrow," he said to Lumina as they watched the distant ships approach, "we've already proven something important. We've shown that there's strength in working together, in respecting the wisdom of living systems." Lumina's crystalline hand found his, sending sparkles of light dancing across their joined fingers. "Tomorrow," she said softly, "will show them just how powerful that wisdom can be." Above them, the stars began to disappear one by one as the Helios fleet moved into position. The final battle for the future of life in the galaxy was about to begin, and it would start in a greenhouse on a small blue planet that had learned to fight back with flowers. Dawn broke over Earth with an unnatural silence. The Helios fleet hung in the sky like artificial stars, visible even in daylight. At their center, a massive ship carried the solar crown, a device designed to enslave all photosynthetic life. In Nathaniel's greenhouse, now the heart of Earth's resistance, humans and crystallites made their final preparations. The botanical network they'd built had spread to every corner of the planet, linking not just their sanctuaries but every plant on Earth into a single, living defense system. "They're powering up the crown," Solaris reported, his golden form flickering with anxiety as he monitored their sensors. "Energy readings are off the charts." "Let them come," Rachel said, making final adjustments to their own network. "Earth's plants have a few surprises for them." Lumina stood at the center of the greenhouse, her crystalline form pulsing in harmony with the bioluminescent species around her. Other crystallites had taken similar positions at sanctuaries across the globe, ready to help channel and direct the planet's botanical energy. "Nathaniel," she called softly. "It's time." He joined her, taking her hand. Over the past months, they discovered that human touch could help stabilize and focus crystallite energy signatures. More than that, their connection had become a symbol of everything they were fighting for, the power of cooperation over control, of harmony over dominance. A blinding light burst from the Helios flagship, and the solar crown activated. Its energy washed over the planet like a tidal wave, seeking to override and enslave every photosynthetic process on Earth. But instead of withering under its assault, Earth's plants began to glow. "It's working," Thomas breathed, watching the readings. "The network is redistributing the energy, just like we planned." From the smallest algae to the tallest redwoods, every plant on Earth had become part of a vast, interconnected web of light. The solar crown's attempt to impose control was being transformed into something else entirely, a demonstration of life's fundamental interconnectedness. "Helios is increasing power," Rachel warned. "They're trying to overwhelm the network." Nathaniel squeezed Lumina's hand. "Now," he said. "Show them what Earth's garden can really do." Lumina raised her free hand, and every crystallite on the planet did the same. As one, they reached out to Earth's plants not with commands but with invitation, not seeking to control but to collaborate. The response was beyond anything they'd imagined. Every plant on Earth began to evolve simultaneously, building on months of accelerated development and cooperation with the crystallites. But instead of developing weapons or defenses, they created something entirely new, a way of sharing energy that transcended the normal limitations of photosynthesis. The network, Dr. Patel's voice came through their communication system, filled with awe. "It's not just redistributing energy anymore. It's creating it. Clean, sustainable, unlimited." The solar crown's attempt to enslave life had instead unleashed its greatest potential. The very force Helios had tried to control was now freely available to all, generated through the harmonious interaction of plants, crystallites, and humans working together. In orbit, the Helios fleet's systems began to overload, unable to process or control the pure, living energy now radiating from Earth. The solar crown, designed to dominate life, was being overwhelmed by life's capacity to grow, adapt, and share. "They're retreating," Solaris announced as the fleet began to pull back. "The crown's containment systems are failing." Through their botanical network, they could feel similar transformations beginning on other worlds, as the knowledge of this new way of working with photosynthetic life spread across the galaxy. Earth's garden had become a seed that would transform countless worlds. Regina Blackwood's voice cut through their communications. "Do you realize what you've done?" she demanded. "The power you're giving away for free, it belongs under proper control." "No," Nathaniel replied simply. "It belongs to life itself. And life finds a way to share." The Helios fleet made its final retreat as the sun rose fully over Earth, now glowing with a new kind of light, the light of countless plants and beings working in harmony. In the aftermath, as humans and crystallites celebrated together in the greenhouse, Lumina turned to Nathaniel. "You knew, didn't you? That Earth's plants would find a way to transform conflict into cooperation?" "I hoped," he said, looking around at the garden that had become so much more. "Humanity's greatest discoveries have always come from working with nature, not against it. We just needed to remember that." "And now?" she asked. "What happens next?" Nathaniel smiled, watching as scientists from around the world began sharing data with newly arrived alien researchers, all eager to understand and build upon what Earth's garden had achieved. "Now we grow," he said. "Together." Epilogue. 1 year later, the research center had become Earth's first galactic botanical institute. Gardens like Nathaniel's had sprung up across the galaxy, each one a center for studying and sharing the new forms of energy and cooperation that Earth's plants had pioneered. The crystallites, no longer refugees, had become teachers and partners in humanity's expansion to the stars. But they did so not as conquerors or controllers, but as gardeners, helping life flourish wherever they went. And in a special greenhouse where it all began, two unlikely friends, a human botanist and a crystalline being who had learned to trust him, continued their work, discovering new ways for life to grow, adapt, and thrive across the cosmos. They had learned that the greatest power in the universe wasn't control or domination, but the simple miracle of a seed sprouting in fertile soil, reaching toward the light, and sharing its growth with everything around it. The end was really just another beginning, as all good gardens know.